Welcome to another edition of Masks, Mats, and Mayhem. I am your host, Justin Harvey. You can find me on Twitter at JustinHarvey75. I'm also joined by my co-host, Byron Mark Turk, whatever. I've got his microphone muted, so this is the best part of the show for me. You can find him on Twitter at Byron Fever. You can find my other co-host, Casey Nielsen, on Twitter at Lucha Gringo, because that's the one place where he can actually get the tag at Lucha Gringo. And we are joined today by a very special guest that Byron acquired for us because he was trying to get one of these t-shirts or something. I don't know exactly how the whole thing went down, but we will find out. He is the producer of one of my favorite Mark Burnett shows, and he's been doing this for a long time, guys. It's Matt VanWagenen. No, wait, Byron, you got the wrong VanWagenen. It's not the Survivor guy.
Well, this is for the Survivor podcast. Why wouldn't I have the Survivor guy?
No, you got that. I've seen their pictures before. This is Eric VanWagenen. That's not Matt VanWagenen.
Huh? What's the difference?
Well, not much. I mean, I don't know. You'll have to tell us.
Let's all have Casey write up new questions and pretend it was on purpose.
All right. Well, Casey, Byron botched this one. I'm sorry, dude. We'll have to change the questions here. You good with that?
It's all right, because I don't know shit about Survivor, but I am quite the Lucha Underground fan.
Oh, I've seen every episode of Survivor and Big Brother. I'm a reality show mark, but that's because I work in reality TV, and so does Byron. You're like hoity-toity screenwriter or whatever. But anyway, yeah, I guess we're going to be joined by Eric VanWagenen since Byron couldn't figure out how to get Matt VanWagenen on the show. You there, Eric? Welcome.
Right. Am I talking? Can you hear me?
Yeah, talking.
You guys
well,
are
so
dead.
I guess this is okay because you do have Survivor as one of your credits too, right?
Yeah, but you know, I have two brothers, Mike and Matt, and I answered both names, so I'm okay with that. You know, we're close in age, and yes, it is tough when your brother also has a show on Wednesday nights at 8 that draws like 12 million, and yours is significantly lower. But we trend. Well, I guess they do too. But he's a big pussy because he stays safe under the network television umbrella, and he doesn't take the big risks in life. So you can get him. I think he's probably sitting around doing nothing right now.
Well, I am a big Survivor fan, but at the same time, I think we're definitely happier to have you here. We are all huge fans of the Lucha Underground show and some of the other stuff that you've done. Your IMDb tells me, and I never know how accurate these things are, so feel free to yell at someone who's not me. You've done Survivor, Amazing Race, Apprentice, Celebrity Apprentice, Contender, WWE Tough Enough, the Challenger Muay Thai, Bully Beatdown with Mayhem Miller, right?
Yeah, that was a fun one.
Love Jason. He's a homie from back in the day. WWE Legends House,
yep.
Lucha Underground, and, of course, the upcoming Celebrity Apprentice, which has yet to air, which will be your next big giant thing, right?
Yeah, that'll be the next thing I ask you to retweet in a couple of months. Yeah, those were the ones from the last 15 years. There was some dumb stuff back in the 90s, but once
how do you get rid of the dumb stuff from the 90s? Because all my dumb stuff from the 90s is still on there. I can't get rid of that shit.
I don't know why. I think people just stopped paying attention to it. It was a lot of like, I don't know if you remember like Maximum Exposure. Do you remember that show?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that? You remember that? Wow, that's old school. Wild Things. Do you remember Wild Things? Do you remember that? That was UPN back then.
UPN Network. Universal Paramount. These guys are probably too young to even remember the UPN.
I know that.
Yeah.
SmackDown was on UPN, bro. Come on.
All right.
I think you're right. Yeah. So yeah, there was a lot of stuff, but I only really started counting it once we started doing this crazy reality TV stuff.
All right. Well, so the obvious transition question here is, before we get into, I know what everyone wants to talk about that's watching this show is probably Lucha Underground, but I am a little curious about how you kind of got there. You were originally an editor or whatnot, because I come from the field side of things, and obviously I've gotten nowhere in life, so my trajectory was terrible. So why don't you tell us like a good fantasy story of how you can sit and post in a bay and get somewhere in life?
I was a post supervisor for a long time, and I worked on a lot of different stuff from like movie trailers and movie EPKs and bad studio promotional stuff. And I kind of saw what editors were doing and how they were getting paid like they were getting paid more than producers, and they were getting paid by the hour, and so they didn't have to work crazy sick hours. And I just remember quitting my job in the summer of '97 and said, I'm going to go learn how to edit. And I took, my unemployment money and I put it for an Avid class, and I learned how to edit. And I called up some editors that I used to hire, and I said, hey, just let me come in and work at night. And if after a couple of weeks I can't edit, you can cut me loose and I'll go back and do something else. And this was like in the late 90s, right as reality TV was just starting to sort of kind of come out of the shadows, and networks were looking at things like that. And worked for a guy named Bert Van Munster on something called Wild Things, which was Bert Van Munster then went on to do The Amazing Race. And I just remember working on a couple of things, and like an editor friend of mine said, hey, I just got hired to go edit a show in Borneo. And he said, they're doing this crazy thing where they're taking like 16 people and they're throwing them on an island, and we're building edit bays on the island. and it's a network show, and they're throwing a ton of money at it, and you got to come try and get on it and come to Borneo with me. And I went and I interviewed with Mark Burnett and Craig Pelagian.
My former boss, which is how I got into it.
Yeah, because he and Mark had a falling out after Survivor 1, and Craig went on to do Pilgrim, and that's a whole different soap opera.
A whole different ball game. But hey, that's how I got into the business, so I can't. I'm glad they had a falling out.
yeah, and so I didn't get hired by him, so they wouldn't hire me because I didn't have any network experience. And but what I did see is they showed me the first 10 minutes of the cold open of Survivor Season 1, like about 4 months before it actually aired. And I just remember having this epiphany and this life-changing moment of thinking, like, this is going to change television, and I need to get involved with these people, and I need to do stuff for them. And I'll do whatever it takes to, like, be in the front of this wave of TV, which I could completely see was going to just change the business. And so I, at about the same time, Amazing Race 1 was turned on, and I got a job working night editor shift over there. And so I worked there for a couple of seasons, season 1, 2, and 3, I think, and then got to know some of the network people and sort of elbowed my way into, I think I interviewed with Survivor 4 times before they finally hired me, and got to come on there and met Mark Burnett, got in well with, really good with Mark Burnett. And you have to understand, Mark Burnett is a guy that saw the value of editing at a very early phase, probably before a lot of other people saw it. And, with the invention of the Avids, which, for people who aren't in television, an editing system was created that it was basically upgrading post-production from a typewriter to a computer.
Yeah, it was a huge
revolutionized post-production, and it revolutionized the kind of television that you could make, where you could just take something and build it and change it and swap it around. And whereas before you had to edit shows completely linearly from, shot 1, shot 2, shot 3, you couldn't jump ahead. You couldn't.
Yeah, and while you were doing that, we were still over at Pilgrim doing paper cuts on everything first. And
I started doing paper. I mean, I was, those of us who started TV I started in 1990. That's what producers did. We did paper cuts, and left side had the video, and the right side had the audio, and you would do your radio cut, and you would cut in all the other stuff, and it was labor intensive, and it took for. There's just too much things that were changing. So I was lucky to be in the right place at the right time. I met Mark Burnett. He understood the value of editing. There was a period of time where he was going around town just snatching up every good editor in LA and throwing contracts at them and money at them. And it was a great time to be in television in the early aughts, as they say. Mm-hmm. And he would, he had Survivor on the air, which season 1 it drew, I think, 75 million viewers for its finale. I mean, that's like Super Bowl numbers in the U.S. And then he followed it up with The Apprentice, which had, I think, 40-something million for their season 1 finale. And he could do no wrong. And, people were just throwing money at him. I was going back and forth between Amazing Race and Survivor, and was kind of elbowing my way into producing the stuff that I was editing. I liked to be out in the field a little bit and wanted to do it that way. I got involved with Contender as the supervising editor on that show. And that was like, that was so different, to be able to work with real boxers, real professionals. And the thing that I really loved about it is it had real world stakes. Sergio Mora, who won season 1 of Contender, went on to win the WBC title. This really affected these guys. This changed, these guys would go from making, $2,000 a fight to, at the worst case, they were making $25,000, $50,000 a fight. So there was real world consequences to the show. And so that actually kept the reality part of it true.
It changes the game for you too. Like I worked on the old Tap Out show.
Yeah.
And we saw those fighters like I met Cowboy Cerrone when he was nobody. And look at that guy now. He's like trying to get a title fight, and he's, one of the biggest stars in the UFC. And we had a few of those guys on, and it was life-changing for them. And that's when you realize that reality TV, regardless of what people see out there, it's not the hot tub reality stuff that we're talking about, but this other stuff can really change lives and really have an impact and effect.
Absolutely. And the power of television, you don't need to go any further with my experience with Donald Trump. The power of television is significant, and it's real. And now it's changing. The TV business is changing with all the different delivery systems. But like you said with the Tap Out show, Bully Beatdown, the show, that little MTV show that I did, I could list the names of the fighters that came on for us, and it's sort of a who's who in the UFC right now. I mean, we had Eddie Alvarez did, I think, 3 different episodes for us. I had Tyronn Lue came on. I mean, not Tyronn Lue, that's the basketball player. Tyron Woodley came on the show. He beat somebody up. We also had Dan Cormier when he was like 2-0. We put him on the show. That was all. I went to Big John McCarthy, who was our referee for Bully Beatdown and our consultant, and I said to him, I need a couple of guys that nobody knows now but will be world champions someday. He gave me 2 phone numbers, Tyron Woodley and Dan Cormier. And he said, these guys are the real deal.
Dude, Big John is so ridiculously smart. That's amazing.
He's the coolest guy too. I mean, he's always the coolest guy in the room. And I
think honestly that's where I first saw Cormier was on Bully Beatdown. I don't know if I had seen his.
I think it was his first televised fight, and it was a really fun episode, and it was on the last season, and they only aired a couple of times. But I'd love to. I think I have it somewhere, but I wish that was out there on YouTube and stuff, because it was a really funny episode, and he was a really good guy, and all those guys were great, and Mayhem was great and crazy and unfiltered and funny, and a lot of the guys that did Bully Beatdown, if you go through the IMDb page, probably half the people who worked on Bully Beatdown are working on Lucha Underground right now.
Which is good, because that's a great show. I loved it. I know Casey probably too, didn't you, Case?
Yeah, I did. I watch that shit all the time. Oh, it's so great.
I think I still have your application, Casey. I think, you were going to bring Byron on. We were going to be, but, you seem too pathetic.
Yeah. He's always bullying me on the show. It's terrible.
We had guys try to sneak through. We used to have ringers that would try to sneak through, like unknown MMA fighters. And they were trying to, they thought, hey, shit, I could be on MTV, and if I put up a competitive fight, somebody's going to see me. So probably we would get a lot of guys who were trying to fake that they were bullies just so that they could come in and get a fight with one of our guys. And I would catch them. We would catch them. We would have them in the audition. We would have them hit a bag. We had a bag hanging in our audition room, and we'd say, okay, let me see, if you're really, let me see how you hit that bag. And there's certain clues that you can pick up on when somebody who's trained, how they punch back, how their feet stand, what they do with, which one they lead with. Somebody comes in and he tucks his right hand here and he's throwing a jab and he's stepping on it, and I'm like, okay, that guy's a ringer. And so we had to kind of watch out for that. And a couple of them got through, and we didn't figure it out right away. And that's when we would punish those guys. We had a guy who he'd snuck through, and he was a jiu-jitsu guy, and he'd training. And we were going to have him with one of the King of the Cage guys who maybe wasn't so good. And then I started to get nervous because I was watching him warm up and whatever. And so we did a quick switcheroo, and we gave him Eddie Alvarez, and he got the shit kicked out.
So wrong.
And you can see it on his face. He's standing there, and he thinks, this is my big moment. I'm going to beat up a fighter. And Eddie Alvarez comes out, and he just goes, and he turns to McCarthy, and he goes, you fucking gave me Eddie Alvarez. He just got the shit kicked out of him. It was a great episode.
So what do we do with Miller now? Because I saw his fight over in Europe where he missed weight by an entire weight class. Wait, no, he missed weight for the weight class, a full weight class above the weight class he was supposed to be fighting for.
The greatest thing about that is he comes over, he steps on it, and then he steps off and he takes off his shorts. Like that was going to make a difference.
Oh, I lost it, man. Me and Casey were talking about that on the podcast that week, and it's like, you know, I go back with Mayhem too, and we got him on the American Ninja Warrior, the first season that Pilgrim did, and we had him on there. I think that was right after Bully Beatdown. And
yeah, he did. He finished the course, I think. Of the first
season. He finished. He was actually in one of the top times that day, but then a bunch of people beat the time the next day. So, but he actually did finish. I mean, he was a professional
probably
athlete.
Didn't train for it at all. I mean, the guy's a real athlete. I mean, and he has that kind of ridiculous strength. You know, he just. He's a great guy, and you know I know he's fallen on some hard times, and you know trying to get some stuff going, whatever. But I'll always be loyal to him. I always try and help him. I actually, you know, I'm keeping an eye open. Maybe I think I could find a part for him on Lucha Underground or something.
Hey,
like
I'd
that.
love to see it, man. Make sure
limo guy, Nathan Miller, right there. He's
What's
the
that?
clawman. The limo guy.
Yeah, well, maybe I don't know how Spanish is, but Jason's a good guy. He just needs to, you know, stay focused. And I think, you know, like a lot of fighters, when they retire, they get a little lost. They kind of don't always know what the next thing for them is.
Well, and that's why I was excited to see him fighting over in Europe. I was like, you know, maybe this will get Jason back into the swing of things. And I think he was for that fight. It's just the making weight thing was just not a part of it mentally for him. But the fighting and being back into it and promoting properly and showing up to the events and doing all the other stuff and at least, you know, making the weigh-in entertaining, if nothing else, even though it's kind of an insult to the other guy.
Yeah.
But you know, it was still like, okay, good. Jason is, you know, he's doing something productive today. I'll take it.
Yeah, I've always thought he'd make a good coach because, you know, when he was on The Ultimate Fighter, he actually was a real sound coach, I thought. You know, he's good with fighters. He understands it. He's good technically. He can remove the emotion from it, you know, and drive the robot, as he says. And, I think maybe there's some future for him in coaching, or at least I would hope so.
I hope so, too. So then I guess the most relevant question here with your previous TV background is, how did you get involved with these WWE shows? Because obviously that translates to this whole thing, but were they seeing you from those shows and saying, okay, this is the guy to come and do something involving wrestling? Like, how did you get in that whole world?
It was kind of a very roundabout way. And initially, I think they approached Mark Burnett to do Tough Enough. And, you know, the thing about Mark Burnett is he is always the guy that gets the better end of the deal when you make a show with him. And Vince McMahon is always the guy that gets the better end of the deal when you make a deal with him. So there was a development guy that had put WWE together with Mark Burnett. And he actually said to me, he called me, he said, I'm bringing WWE in. Would you want to be considered for this project if Mark does the project? I said, sure. You know, I just finished Contender. I think I was in the middle of Bully Beatdown, and a development guy at a TV production company doesn't see the difference. He sees, you know, oh, it's a ring, right? And
right.
You can shoot one ring and you shoot another. So, you know, that guy knows how to set up cameras around a ring. So why not Eric? And evidently, the negotiations between Mark Burnett and WWE didn't go very well, which doesn't surprise me a bit.
Yeah, big surprise.
But that executive then went over to Shed Media, which was sort of at the time a smaller production house, and he brought WWE in there, and then they made a deal with WWE, and then he just called me anyway. And at the time, I was on hiatus, and I didn't really have I was just sort of chilling out at home looking for the next gig, and I went in to interview and I got the job, not knowing more about wrestling than, you know, I watched a lot of it in the early 80s, you know, and so I had to learn very quickly that wrestling is very different from other professional combat sports, from MMA and from boxing, and that there's a different mentality with wrestlers and people around wrestling. And it was shocking at first. Like I was scratching my head so many times, you know, like what the fuck are these guys doing? You know, we would try and do a scene and everybody was getting their shit in. And I'd be like, guys, we got to get out of here, you know? And,
and they're all just
my cameras are going into overtime. I just need you to, you know, close this down. You know, I would tell Bill DeMott, like, Bill, I just need you to close the scene. And he would come in and, you guys are blowing it. You know, and he'd go on for 20 minutes before, and then Booker had to get his shit in. And then everybody, and it was like this, you know, everybody was cutting promos on everybody all the time. And it would go, you know, cameras would be falling into overtime and my line producer would be freaking out. And I just didn't understand the mentality of, you know, as they say, getting your shit in.
Right.
And so there's a lot of those kind of wrestling terms and ways that wrestlers behave on camera, and it's just what they're used to. I mean, WWE, everybody fights to get in front of that camera, and they don't give it up when they do. So I started to understand the way WWE worked, and they had a guy on set all the time that was making sure we weren't pulling the curtain back too far. And when we would do something, he would step in and say, can't show that.
Well, that's tough too, because that show, the purpose of it was to educate the audience and to bring people in and whatnot, and you're getting an education at the same time. But yeah, knowing the line between real life and kayfabe and what's a shoot and what's a work and how the whole thing's going to go down, that would be a nightmare. I mean, like, just as fans, we have trouble figuring some of that stuff out, but you had to actually protect it and be one of the guardians and disseminators of it. That's tough.
Yeah, and you know, the thing that I did, which looking back was probably the right call, but I just let it be Steve's show. You know, like Steve was here and everybody else was down here, you know, and when you have Stone Cold Steve Austin, I mean, that's not a hard decision to make. It's just like, oh, of course, Steve's here. He's going to guide this ship. It's going to be his show.
So Casey, help me out here. How exactly do you think Steve Austin would talk to Eric VanWagenen back when they were making this show?
Oh, Jesus. Put me on the spot.
I've never put you on the spot. What are you talking about?
Well, Eric, this girl just said her favorite fucking match was Alicia Fox and Melina. I didn't even know what to fucking say. My favorite.
You're not that far. Dude, you're really not that far off. Because when we shot that scene, I said to him, I go, just grill him. I go, you go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And when you think that somebody, and I go, eventually someone will trip up and someone will fuck up so bad that you won't have a choice. And so, you know, as we say, you know, when you do these kind of shows, you know, the house always wins. If you put people in front of camera long enough and you let them talk and you make them nervous and you stress them out, somebody's going to step on their own dick, right? And
for sure, every time,
you know, he did that thing, and he was poking him, you know, and he was going down, and he was getting Eric Watts, and Eric Watts was cool as a cucumber, man. He didn't get thrown by any of this. And I forget who the other one was. That girl, Johnny Fairplay's wife, or whoever it was, the top model girl, and I think it was Arian. And in fairness to Arian, she didn't know shit about wrestling. They seeked her out, and she was like a fitness model or something, and they brought her in, one of those models that they brought in to say, like, okay, pretend that you always wanted to be a wrestler. And she was one of their casted persons, and they were going to sign her to a deal anyway and send her to Florida. And so she didn't know much about wrestling at the time, and she's just a few weeks in. So she'd probably, her favorite match she'd watched 2 weeks before we started shooting, and as soon as she said that, you know, Steve does his, you know, great reaction, and I catch just this little look from him, like, okay, she did it, and he of course let her go, and then he walks off the set. He goes, God damn, I can't keep that girl on the show if she says that's her favorite fucking match, you know. And it was very much like your impression, Casey. It was just like she hung herself, you know, and
it's awesome. Because she got on the main roster and she was trying to pin people laying on their stomach like Kamala and shit.
Yeah.
Like, she didn't even know that. Oh, so great.
Hey, she showed us, man. She's the one that stuck around the longest. So I give her credit. You know, she was durable. She didn't let that stop her. And, you know, say what you will, she spent more time on the WWE roster than any of the other people on that on that cast.
Well, and that's one of the crazy things about wrestling, because half of it is just honest to God about gumption. Like, what do you have inside you to keep going and dealing with the business and putting yourself over constantly and always working at it? Like that, it just wears on a lot of these guys, and hitting the open road and just everything. But yeah, I mean, I am not surprised that sometimes the most shameless people can get over and stay around forever because they just have that internal gumption for whatever reason.
Exactly. And, you know, that show spawned a few people that I'm glad I met at the time. I mean, it was, you know, there was a lot of people that aren't necessarily a good fit for WWE, but it doesn't mean that their talent doesn't come through and that you don't see something in them that you think you can use, you know, in a different format. And thank God I did that show, because, you know, a lot of the best talent from Lucha Underground, and that's how I made that connection.
Well, so now before we leave your reality career, because I do want to definitely talk about Lucha Underground, there's an elephant in the room.
Oh, a big orange-haired elephant.
Yeah. What's your take on it? And I got to ask you too, with your previous associations with that product, that doesn't hurt, you know, your Latino viewership of Lucha Underground, does it?
Good question. You know, when that whole thing, I'd never heard it. I've heard him say some crazy stuff. I'd never heard him take on an entire culture before.
Yeah, and I'm afraid if he builds a wall, that it's going to go right through Boyle Heights. I want to make sure that I'm on the temple side of the wall, no matter what happens here.
I mean, anyone who's lives in California or from California knows that would absolutely collapse the California economy if you build that wall. I mean, you'd be paying $25 for a basket of strawberries, and there'd be fruit rotting on the trees through the Central Coast. I mean, it's such an insane, asinine thing to even suggest.
Oh yeah, I planted fruit trees as soon as he said it. I got a ton of them now. I'm ready for this.
There's cold in them trees, but you know what? This is what I'll say. You know, I always say that there's two things that make a great reality TV contestant. You know, it's one of them is a lack of filter and zero self-awareness. And those two things live in Mr. Trump, definitely. And that's what makes him a great reality TV host. But I'm not sure that makes him a great leader of the free world. You know, none of us were expecting this. You know, we were sort of actually preparing for another season when he announced. Had no idea that it would pick up the momentum that it does. But, you know, the guy is he has the ability to marshal the troops. You know, he has an ability to stir people up and say things that people maybe are afraid to say. You know, without getting too political, because I know that there's a lot of people that really love and respect him. It was as big a surprise to us as it was to anybody else.
I think honestly that it was as big a surprise to him. I mean, when I heard it announced, I was like, sweet, that's going to be more reality money for all of us, because he's going to run for 4 or 5 months and then he's going to be right back on Apprentice and we're all going to have jobs. Like, it was not a bad thing to me the first day. I did not think it was going to keep going. And I swear, there's a point when he's in those debates kicking the crap out of like 11 other candidates where he's looking around like, shit, I'm really in this thing.
Yeah.
I have a theory. I have a theory that what he wanted to do was to mobilize, you know, a little hardcore 10% of the Republican Party. And then he wanted to wait around long enough to where there was like 2 candidates left. And then he could take his little block and he could give it to one of the other 2, and that way he would own a president. He wouldn't necessarily have to be a president.
Well, there's another theory that he was doing the campaign to raise the profile for his hotels or even get a better contract with Burnett. I saw that, and that, I mean, that made me laugh. I mean, you know, look, you know, if that's the case, I would have been I announced my own candidacy for president.
Negotiation.
I would like
pay me more.
I'd like to get more money out of NBC too. But no, it was definitely a surprise. In fact, I was headed to the airport to go have lunch with Snooki when I got the call that NBC had fired him and that the season was off. And there was a lot of us out of work after that. I mean, it's like, oh shit, really? Okay, well, let's hope this Lucha thing sticks around for a while.
Well, so is that when Lucha came to your doorstep? Like,
No, it was
Lucha's-
between seasons, actually. I mean, Apprentice doesn't shoot because of Donald's schedule. We couldn't shoot it more than once a year, and sometimes it was like a year and a half. So it was the kind of thing that Mark had approached me about and said, hey, just take a look at this, see if it's anything we want to do. Try to see how you would staff it, see who's out there, do some location scouting, meet with the different partners, just do kind of like a feasibility thing. And in a couple months, I'm going to ask you if we should do it or not. And it was literally, I was sort of wrapping up Apprentice while I was doing that. I remember taking a call from Trump Tower with all the investors, talking about whether we should do it. And I had this big, they'd given us our air date, and it was like 9 months later. I'm like, shit, what am I going to do? I need a job. So I'm like, Mark, we should do this wrestling show. I think,
Hell yeah,
I think
it'll be the best idea ever.
It'll be great, and I'm happy to take it on. We kind of needed. There was a bunch of us who needed a job. So, but I say that like it wasn't that flippant. I mean, we definitely saw that there was a need there, and that there was a market there, that if we played it right and we just sort of went where WWE wasn't, that we could probably carve out at the very least, I knew there would be a passionate fan base. I didn't know how big they would be, but I knew they'd be into it. And, I learned that from Tough Enough, that season, there was like, with a show that's on USA Network that really doesn't promote wrestling on their network, through word of mouth and through advertising on Raw, I think we drew $4.5 million for a premiere, which for a cable show is unheard of. It's like, it doesn't happen. So right. I knew that, like, if you build it, they will come. That's kind of the attitude with wrestling fans. They'll check it out. They may hate it. They may hate you for doing it, but they will at least check it out.
Well, I mean, when I heard about it, I was stoked because I was just like, whoa, holy crap. These are a bunch of my people from one side getting involved with a bunch of my people from the other side. And it's just like, why is this? I was baffled. Like, I saw a reporter in Variety or someplace, or a Hollywood Reporter, months before the show actually started taping, I think, about your name was in it, I think, and Burnett's and Rodriguez. And I'm just like, what the hell is going on here? This can't be real. This is going to totally fail. This has got to be someone's pipe dream. This is just like some pilot idea. Never's going to make air.
Well, and then, and that was, you're right though, because, one problem I always had on Tough Enough and on Legends House is how do you mix TV people with wrestling people, because it's like it's oil and water sometimes, and there's a natural distrust there. Wrestling people think that TV people are don't get it, and they're stupid, and they don't pay attention to the wrestling details that you need. And it's kind of like the Wrestling Society X, the MTV kind of did. You just kind of just change the rules of the subculture for the television. You can't do that. You kind of have to honor the rules of the subculture. And by the same token, TV people sometimes get the idea that, wrestling is beneath them, or it's low rent, or, it's like, these people think it's real. And, it's not those things, but, there are a lot of sort of misconceptions between the two groups. And that's why, I was looking for people like DJ who worked in both worlds, and he could speak both languages, and Chris Roach, same thing, so I tried to find as many people that we could bring in that had a foot in both worlds, and I thought that would be the only way we could really pull it off.
Well, but I still have to ask you, because to this day, I am still completely baffled as to how you actually pull this off, because this is, being a TV person myself, I'm used to working for these companies like you were with Burnett, where at the end of the day, Burnett's the guy who's got the final say. He may let you control the whole thing all day long, but if he's got something to say at 6 p.m., he's going to say it. And that's going to be what happens. I worked for Pelagian, same kind of deal. But there's this many-headed, top-heavy kind of monster going on with Lucha Underground, and we're always speculating and so baffled. You've got Dorian sending guys up from AAA. You've got MGM trying to market things. You've
Lucha
got
Underground LLC, which are the rich Mexican partners,
right? And
so separate agenda. Yeah.
Like, who makes these decisions? Are you Vince McMahon? Who's running it? Because it's not set up like a regular wrestling business. So I don't think anyone out there who knows TV or wrestling has any idea how things are actually run inside Lucha Underground. And I don't know how much you can pull back the curtain, but like at the end of the day, where does the buck stop? Does it stop on your desk? Does it stop on Dorian's desk, Rodriguez, Burnett, the LLC, DJ? Like who has to deal with all this stuff?
Usually I mean, I have to deal with a lot of the managing of the different partners. I wouldn't say that I'm, the buck stops with me all the time. I'm not claiming to be I have bosses. My thing is, and the beauty of doing a show like this for someone there's two things at play here, which actually work to our benefit. Mark Burnett produces The Voice. He produces Survivor. He produces The Apprentice. He's got the Bible stuff that he does. He does Shark Tank. Like, we are so far down the food chain at the MGM family that he doesn't really want to be bothered with a lot of the details. I mean, I check in with him, I send him updates, and I send him cuts. I don't know if he watches them. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I'm guessing he probably doesn't. I don't think he has enough hours in the day to really deal with it. Now, his personal assistant is a total mark, and she loves Lucha Underground. She comes to almost every taping. So she's constantly, and I was like, oh, you want to bring 10 friends? Come VIP. Let's get you beer. You want food? You want T-shirts? Whatever. I always hook her up because I know when the shit hits the fan in Mark's office, she's going to look out for me. So she reports back that everything's awesome and the show is great and whatever. And so he doesn't really worry about it. On the other side, Robert has a whole network to run. And whereas he put Skip Chasen, who's one of his top creative guys, is involved in the show. Robert is one of these guys who has spent his career kind of going against studio executives and network executives, and he's never wanted to create an environment where there was these middle management that had creative say-so over anything. And so there's not a lot of layers at Del Rey. It goes to him, it goes to Skip, it goes to legal, and I think in over 100 episodes now that we've shot, I think I've had like 3 notes from the network. I mean, they've been so minor.
Wow.
It's amazing. Yeah.
I'm not even on a show right now, and I'm still dealing with notes from my last one. Are you kidding me?
And the way TV works now, and like even with Apprentice, I'll get 5 or 6 different passes of notes, and sometimes it's like 16 pages of notes. And anyone who works in reality television knows that you can give notes forever. I mean, it can just go on and on and on and on. And that's the disheartening thing. And to me, that's my advantage, because I can get editors, and I come in and say, what you give me is 99% what's going to air. And so creatively, you're on the hook for it. And I think as a showrunner, you have to do that with people, because that brings out the best in people. If I tell a writer or an editor or somebody who works on the show, what you create is not going to be messed with. That's what's going to air. They never phone it in because they feel a personal connection to the work. And I know that from years of being an editor and knowing that my first cut was going to be gutted and it was going to be torn apart, and some 26-year-old network executive was going to give me moronic notes, and I'd have to spend my weekends away from my wife and kids because I'm busy working on cut 17 of some stupid reality show. If you take that out of it, you get a very committed and passionate crew, and creative people want to work for you. Even though it's one of the smallest shows on the TV dial, I have a lot of super creative people that are way too good for a show of this budget, who are willing to take a cut and pay to have that kind of creative freedom. And I think that, that's one of the things that's sort of the magic behind Lucha Underground sometimes.
Well, okay, so while we're talking about your editors, put these guys over, because I think they might be some of the unsung heroes of your product. Like, we know Skip and DJ and Roach and, the guys we see at the temple, and even the cameraman, because your jib guy's awesome. Love that dude.
Yeah.
Amazing. But who are your editors? Put these dudes over. Like, what are they doing? How do they make this thing?
We got 3 editors, and these are guys that I've known forever. 3 of them are Barry Murphy, Ryan Hermosura, and Nick Stoller. And they're like brothers to me. Like Nick and Ryan were both assistant editors for me back on Contender 11 years ago. And, I like to think that I helped teach them how to edit, but I think they've both sort of exceeded where I was, and they've gone on and they're more creative and more clever than I think I was at my best. But these are 3 guys, and Barry, he cut the pilot of Bully Beatdown, and that was the first place we worked together. And he was so funny, and he had such a good sense of humor. And they have a good scenario right now, because Ryan cuts the vignettes, Barry and Nick cut the wrestling,
all three of them are kind of closet wrestling fans. They won't really admit it, but there's a couple Rock T-shirts deep in their closet somewhere, and they work from home because we don't have enough budget to have them come into the office. So they've set up Avids in their living rooms or their bedrooms or their offices at home, and they just email me cuts once a week. Ryan,
whoa! You're an EP. You're not standing over their shoulder bitching about stuff and spilling coffee on their desk.
No, I don't. Look, these guys I trust. I mean, I've literally known them all more than 10 years. So we've worked together. We've edited together. As an editor, I used to take Ryan's work and I would sit him down next to me and I'd say, okay, this is why I'm changing this, and he would feed me. Like in reality TV, you have your finishing editor, and then you have your B and your C editors and stuff like that. And your finishing editor takes the other cuts and they change them and they work them in and they try and smooth everything out so that it looks. Well, those guys did that. We all worked together on teams, in the past. So we know each other very well. We have a shorthand that I could just kind of say, hey, how about a little more of this or a little less of this, or don't jump the line here. Or, we just have this kind of, quick, fast 3-word dialogue where we get it. And they know what I like. They know what I hate. And it makes my job very easy to have these guys there, and they're the best. I love them. They when they're not working on Lucha, they work on The Voice, they work on Survivor, and they work on Shark Tank. And they've all got multiple Emmy nominations. And they do this because look, they get to stay home and they get to do something creative and fun. And I just tell them, hey, you set your own hours. If Wednesday morning, if I don't have a cut of the next show, then we'll say something. But as long as I have the cut Wednesday morning to look at, I don't care what you do. And, now I think they've gotten it down to where they can have a lot of free time and a lot of freedom to do what they want to do. And they're happy and I'm happy. And, it's a very happy, creative family at Lucha Underground, and it's small.
And this is I think where people are going to, he's got to be working us. It can't be that good. Because it's amazing. Like, I mean, you got guys like Chris Roach, who's an EP of a giant show somewhere else, who is not the number one guy at your show. I mean, and he's coming in and working with a smile for you.
Yeah.
And that's amazing to me. And then like when we had Kevin Cross on the show, the guy who's just come and done a couple dark matches or whatever he says he's done because he won't fucking tell us.
The boy. Yeah.
And you can tell us if you want, though.
Kevin Cross is awesome. He will be a part of Lucha Underground soon. That's what I'll say.
All right. We'll take that. But he comes on the show and he's like almost in tears talking to us about how this is a fucking family. Like, this is the first time he's felt like he's part of a family. Like, his mother kicked him down the stairs and Eric VanWagenen's at the bottom to pick him up and cradle him like a little baby or something. I don't know. But I mean, we hear this time and time again, and it even comes from us as believers and the people who are coming to the shows. Like, I don't think that people really understand how tight-knit and how close and how much of a family a lot of this whole thing really is.
And, that's sort of built through strife. I don't know. You guys were there in the early days. We had some rough weekends there at the temple. But ultimately, when you have long-term relationships with people, like the lighting guy, he and I spent 4 months in Singapore together shooting Contender season 4 and the editors and the cameramen. And like a lot of these guys, we've put the time into with each other. And like Tony Jensen, who was a Vampiro psychologist in season 2. He was my line producer on Tough Enough, and he worked on the early seasons of Apprentice. I've known him forever. Josie, who manages the live events, Josie, who you guys have to be nice to in order to get the good seats. And she and I go back to the Contender season 2, which was 2006. And so, it is a family, but it was a family before Lucha Underground. We've just sort of opened our doors and made a bigger family. And a lot of that is just because, Mark Burnett Productions was a really great place to work. And it's MGM now, and it's changed, and it's not the same as it was 10 years ago. But, back then it was, we felt like we were doing something that was kind of revolutionary, and it was going to change television. We all felt appreciated and well paid and rewarded, and friendships, if you've got to spend all this time with people, you might as well spend it with the people you like and the people that you trust and the people that have your back. It does definitely feel that way. And a lot of it is because wrestling is a tough business and people get kicked around a lot. And, a lot of people in the wrestling business lie all the time. And I think when you just come in and you treat people like you would on any other TV show, they respond that way. They respond with a sense of, wow, I feel appreciated and I feel taken care of, and I'm going to give you my best work because of it. And we don't have the money to compete with some of the other bigger groups, and so we need that sense of loyalty from the people on the show.
Well, so
top to bottom.
So I got to ask you the kind of tough question that comes out of that is, you are doing this basically on a TV budget, from what I understand, which I can't even imagine how you make a wrestling product when you're trying to budget out line items for, and you've got all these mouths to feed and different things to keep going, and guys who want to work and this and the other thing, and you've got guys who are coming in with AAA gimmicks, then you've got guys who are characters that you've created yourself from thin air, and then you've got guys who are their old wrestling personas that they're bringing in that they may own themselves. Like, how are you guys dealing with like the intellectual properties and merchandising and all of the other stuff that a wrestling company deals with every day, but you guys, are kind of coming from a TV side? How the hell you manage that shit?
It's hard. We've made a lot of mistakes along the way. We're learning, the hard way on a lot of this sort of stuff, and we are still adjusting our contracts and still adjusting our employment agreements. And we've fucked it up as much as anybody has. But our lawyers we have MGM lawyers, so they're good. We're not just some tiny little production company. I mean, as small as the Lucha Underground staff is, we do have the heavy hammer of MGM behind us. So when we need it, we have lawyers, we have people who can stick up for us and do the real sort of the powerlifting in those situations. But we haven't. Every situation is a little bit different because you're right. You're exactly right. Some of the gimmicks are owned by AAA. Some of the gimmicks are owned by the own individual wrestlers. Some of them DJ and Roach have created, and then they belong to the LLC. And it's everything in between. And sometimes you take a guy who comes in, and he's Willie Mack out on the indies, but he's the Mack at Lucha Underground, and we own the rights to the Mack, but he owns the rights to Willie Mack. And, look, it's not a perfect science. And, there's a lot of people who've learned how to sneak through the cracks and come in and utilize some of our talent and some of our IP in ways that are not against the contracts, but certainly outside of the spirit of the contracts. We're trying to be fair, but at the same time, we have to survive and we have to protect our IP as we go. But the long, boring answer to your good question was we haven't quite figured it out yet, but we're working on it.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it scares us as fans because it's like, oh wow, this dude just pissed off AAA down in Mexico. Is he going to still show up at Lucha Underground, or oh, this guy is an indie guy, but he's out there sneaking his gimmick around from Lucha Underground. Is he going to get a slap on the dick or whatever? Like we're always petrified as fans, like, because I think we can even sense how volatile and touchy some of these situations are and how much it might not be set in stone yet.
And it's a hard thing because you want to follow the hard line contract that everybody's agreed to, and you try to do that. At the same token, I'm a human being, and I understand that to be in this business, you have to survive in this business. Every dime counts. These aren't guys that are out there, making money and buying a second home, at the beach somewhere. These are guys who are trying to feed their family. They're trying to feed their kids. They're trying to do this in a way that allows them to do the job that they love, and not have to go get a 9-to-5 in a factory somewhere. So, the human side of me wants to say, hey, as long as you show up on Saturday and Sunday and you give us your best work and you put it all out there, look, I'm not gonna get my nuts in a twist over whether you sell something out of the back of your truck. But there are people who do care about that, and it is a business, and our partners have invested a lot in this, and so I have to be the boss sometimes and tighten that up a little bit. But it's always a gray area. I mean, there's more gray areas in this goddamn show than in any show I've ever worked on in my life, and it keeps me up at night. But
that's why there's 75 podcasts about it now, because we can all talk about these gray areas for hours because there's so much cool stuff. Like
wrestling fans are crazy, man. They're just it's wild,
Well,
you see the 75 podcasts on The Apprentice, and we draw 10 times the audience.
Oh, exactly. Well, but it's just like that because we get invested in it, and that's part of it. And I think what has supplanted old school kayfabe and full belief in the characters that you see in ring is now the wrestling fan, or the smart mark, or the smangry mark, as it may be in Casey's case.
Is it okay to call somebody that? Is that like outside of
hashtag smangry?
No, a smart mark. Like some people get mad when you use that term.
Some people do get very mad about it. But the simple fact of the matter is, like, I used to listen to Ryder and Borash on the internet and this kind of thing. And nowadays it becomes more exciting and a bigger way to invest if you're a real fan, to know a little bit about what's going on behind the scenes. It makes the whole thing an actual hobby. As opposed to the casual fan who just wants to sit down and see two guys kick each other's ass. There's too much wrestling to me on TV for that to still just be the only entertaining part of it. It's like, I want to know more. I want to know who some of these guys are as people, or who they're representing, or how far they're going to take their kayfabe. Like, I think that's where you get all these podcasts, because, guys like me and J-Man from The Last Real Heels, we think very similarly about a ton of things, but at the same time, you could listen to us both talk about it for 20 minutes and it will be a completely different experience. It's also just a strange phenomenon.
It's also, Lucha Underground is only an hour a week when the season's airing, and when everyone gets together for the tapings, they're waiting in line for like half a day, a full day, and we're just always talking about it. And when the tapings go away, or when the show isn't on, there's that void that we're trying to fill. Like, there's more of a thirst for the product, for the discussion of the product. And I think that's why there's so many podcasts, because you're just getting together with other people and talking about it. And there's the technology to upload it and share it real easily. But everyone just wants to keep talking about it.
And the thing for me, it's kind of funny. It's kind of sort of odd. And coming from reality TV, you know that people are watching it in a very relaxed, kind of easygoing way. When we did Bully Beatdown, our joke on the set was, "Let's make a really good hot dog today, guys." We knew we were making hot dogs. We weren't making filet mignon. We weren't making high class stuff. We were making hot dogs, and why not make a good hot dog? But now when they watch this, it's almost like they're government auditors going through your taxes. It's sort of like they're trying to catch you fucking up somehow, instead of just kind of like sitting back and relaxing it and eating a hot dog or eating a taco and enjoying the show. And that's sort of the part that takes a little getting used to, is that every decision is going to be, microanalyzed 18 different ways. And if you're lucky, 51% of the people will line up on your side.
Well,
Dan, we're trying to figure out the stories, man. Like, we don't know if something's
that's cool. I like that. I like that. Fan theories are awesome. In fact, the fan theories sometimes are better than what we thought.
Don't tell Casey that. Don't tell him that. You're going to blow up his whole head. He's going to think all his fan theories are better than your shit. Don't tell him.
More than once, I've sent a fan theory to DJ going, "I don't know, that's pretty fucking good." I don't know, feel that. But yeah, there's some clever people out there, and I appreciate it. I love the fact that part I love. It's when it's just that, sometimes it's the overly, negative analysis of it. Like they're trying to find, and look, everybody's listen to wah, poor me, somebody doesn't like the show. That's not what I'm saying. It's sort of like it's just that wrestling fans watch it from a unique perspective sometimes, and I think that comes from, they want to watch wrestling, but they don't like people judging them for watching wrestling. So it sort of becomes like, yeah, I know it's fake, I'm watching it because I'm going to shit on it, or I'm going to tear it apart, I'm going to be critical of it.
Yeah. We get defensive as wrestling fans, and don't get me wrong, I have nitpicked the hell out of your show from time to time. I've always said on this show that if we're not going to tell our friends what we honestly think about something, then we're not friends at all. So
I do that too. My brother and I, when we watch each other's shows, I give him shit over stuff that I think is stupid. or doesn't make sense, or if Jeff Probst got too into somebody's shit, I'll get mad and I'll call him and I say, hey, why'd you do that? Why'd you include that? That sucked. I didn't like that. And he does the same for me. So, that's sort of normal, I guess. It's just that wrestling has they personalize.
It's very unique. Well, I mean, we saw you get a little bit chewed up on some of your comments on the deletion thing. Yeah, we got to bring it up.
God.
No, but I mean, I don't really care.
I saw
about
DJ on a podcast said that he liked the final deletion, and I was wondering if that made it a little awkward between the two of you.
He said that on a podcast.
Yeah,
I think he said.
Okay.
Is there a head writer opening now?
So what do they say about all wrestlers lie? Is that what they say? No, for me it was interpreted the wrong way. First off, when I saw those promos, like the early promos, I thought, there's a very fine line between parody and imitation. And I kind of thought, hey, they're kind of parodying us a little bit. That's kind of funny, with the baby and all that crazy stuff they did in the promo. And it was really just like I put my EP hat on and I was like, wait, the colors aren't matching between those two cameras, and that camera was framed wrong and that camera was out of focus, and wait, that music didn't hit in the right spot. And it's sort of like I wish that they had taken that scene and handed it over to Ryan Hermosura or Nick Stoller or Barry Murphy, and they would have cut it together totally different. And
and I'll say it for you because you don't even have to say it. I can tell you right now, the camera work in that segment was not good.
I will say this though, and I'm going to put them over for this. That fucking drone was cool. And if I looked at that and said, shit, that's cool. I would like to do something like that, but the drone laws in Los Angeles are really
drone laws. Nothing. That thing will get shot out of the sky just to steal the batteries in Boyle Heights. Are you kidding me? The drones got no chance at Boyle Heights.
We did use drones on season 1, but the drones in the match, I give them credit. That I liked. That was cool. I just, honestly, it's like that kind of. But see, that stuff is really expensive to do. To take a 2-hour show and send it to a color corrector, you got to spend some money. It's not cheap to.
But look, for that segment, as much longevity as they got out of that segment, in retrospect, it would have been worth it to shine that thing up a little bit more.
But look, you can't spend somebody else's money, and I feel bad even knocking it because there's probably a producer and an editor sitting somewhere and is like, "Fuck that guy! I only had this much money and this much time."
I don't know. Borash and Matt might have cut that thing themselves, man. I think they might have financed that whole thing out of pocket because Dixie was broke that day.
Yeah, all I'm saying is, if you're gonna go there, you got to be prepared to spend some money and go there all the way.
Well, I just thought it was interesting in not necessarily what your comments were or whatever, because I took it exactly the way you just said. It was like, oh, it's a TV guy commenting on TV stuff, exactly what I do to you all the time, whether it's good, bad, ugly, or indifferent. Yeah. But at the same time, it was like, man, when the wrestling fans started to pounce on you, I was like, holy shit, is Eric prepared for this? Because it's you either got to go the full Vince Russo and Jim Cornette and just talk ridiculous smack all the time now, or you got to fucking just fade back from it and be like, shit, here we go. Because
I never want to talk about it again. I don't. I have no desire to make myself a household name in Lucha Underground. I'm happy to stay back behind the scenes and talk. I mean, something like this is fine, but I work for Mark Burnett and Robert Rodriguez, and I say all the time, they're the two guys that are the face of this organization, and they're the ones that should get the credit because they're the ones that found the money to do it. So they're the most important people. But yeah, I wish I hadn't. I wish I just kept my stupid mouth shut. I got a lot of angry abuse.
Well, and for people that aren't from wrestling, sometimes in the wrestling world, that angry abuse, man, some of these guys feed off of that because they're used to being heels and getting heat. You clearly are not a heel, Eric. You're not a heel.
My feelings were hurt.
I get stuff like that on the internet, and I'm like, oh hell yeah, here we go, let's do this.
I'm 48 years old. I wasn't raised with internet comments. I literally just turned off my Twitter for a week, and I was like, I can't take any more of this.
Oh, we all knew too, and we felt bad for it. I think we even mentioned it on our podcast that week of poor EV-Dub is probably huddled in a corner right now trying to dodge the looks from his computer.
Yeah, it was bad, but oh well, it happened.
So I want to ask you about just criticisms in general of the Lucha Underground product. Like, how do you take this? Because wrestling is a very fickle market. I see like a lot of WWE fans will beat up the product. I got mad at some of the comments that I was seeing being thrown at Stryker about the commentary on the WMD match, because I loved it. But I feel like a lot of times his commentary is for me. A lot of these WWE fans just were brutal about it. I mean, like, and what do you guys do with that info?
I look at it in a very simple way, and that is, and this is a lesson I learned from reality television. The most important thing you can have is polarizing people. The worst thing you can have is somebody. And look, I'm a milquetoast, middle of the road guy. If I were on one of these shows, they'd be like, "Who? Which guy is that? Oh, the old guy? Yeah, no, forget it." Like, you want people who polarize your audience. They got to either love you or they got to hate you, and anything in the middle is death. So as long as Stryker and Vamp are on one end of the spectrum or the other, I'm okay with that. Does that Stryker is pretty? He's pretty sort of thick-skinned. He can take it. Sometimes when we're in the audio mix, he'll say some stuff that feels sort of like too far out there, and we will pull it back and we will take it out and we'll call him and say, give us a recall, and we'll pick something up the next time. It's not a ton of that, but there is a little bit. Sometimes we pull him back, and Vamp as well. We have to sometimes, because if you know Vamp, he can go into some very dark places when he starts talking about the occult and weird shit that happened to him in Mexico City, and when he was Krav Maga and vampire cults, and but personally, I'm constantly entertained by those two. And look, maybe I'm not the right audience, but I do think that they bring a uniqueness, and sometimes it's better to have a lightning rod out there that catches the heat, so that your other things that are more the wrestling part of the show. Nobody, if they're too busy shitting on Stryker, then they're not attacking our talent. That's okay too. If that's the worst thing that they can complain about, I think that's okay.
Hey, no one was going to be attacking the talent in that WMD match. Period. Yeah. That thing was amazing.
That was and I credit DJ and Roach on that one, because they had to talk me into that. At first, that was when I read that script, I was like, do you think they can pull it off? And they're like, trust me, they can pull it off. And so, I always do better when I trust those guys, and the show's always better when I trust those guys. And,
so how does something like that work? So basically it came from DJ and Roach, the idea, but then like who agents it and makes it happen in the ring? And then how do you get that through the edit in the timeline that fits the show? Like how does that go from idea to what I see at home and enjoy?
Well, originally it was supposed to be a ladder match, because I think they had that last spot in mind. But I didn't want it to get lost in the in sort of like, we have a pretty high standard for our ladder matches. If you go back and you look at, the ladder matches that we've had, they've been pretty spectacular. And I didn't want theirs to get lost in all ladder matches at Lucha Underground. And I was a little worried that they wouldn't be able to, raise the bar that high. I'm not worried, because they're both awesome and they're great. I just didn't want to get lost in the shuffle. So I said, could you call it something other than a ladder match and just come up with something cool? And they came back with that. And I was like, great, that sounds even better. It's the only one we've done. And it was essentially a ladder match. It just, it had better props. When they shot it, we shot that one we shot in middle of March of this year, and it just aired 2 weeks ago. So we had a lot of time to work it. And the hardest thing is always getting the shows to time. It's never about filling the show. It's always about cutting it down to time. And sometimes, you have to cut out the slow spots in the match, and that's set up and selling. And, hardcore fans get mad when we do that. But we have a 45-minute maximum on Lucha Underground, and, it can't be 45:01. So something's got to give.
Right. Well, see, we love it because a lot of times we were there to see the live version anyway. So it's like, I want to see the different new version of it, or how they put it together.
How did it hold up for you guys? Because I know you were there, but how did it hold up when you saw it on TV?
I thought it was awesome. We couldn't see. We were on the other side of the ladder, so we couldn't see the actual finish. We just saw, the jump from the top. So that was really cool.
Almost decapitate herself, though, and then
yeah.
That one scared me too. I gotta say. Yeah, that was a close call.
But it's interesting to see over the different seasons, see wrestling fans adjust to the editing element that's brought to the show, because you'll read how the first matches went and everyone is critiquing the live wrestling match, but then you see it on TV and it looks great. And everyone's used to live shows are better. Live shows are better. SmackDown just became a live show to make it better. But ultimately, what Lucha Underground is doing and people are getting used to is you're making it more polished and you're making it more precise.
And does that affect the performance art of it? That's up to the fans. I mean, it's a valid point, but we couldn't we don't have the budget to do a live show.
Let's see cool shit. If it's not live, like have Katrina teleport and shit. It's awesome.
Yeah. I think it's kind of better the way you guys do it.
And sometimes we blend the vignettes with the live element, and I'm not sure how well that works. But we're still sort of playing with it. But the vignettes, are a completely different animal. They shoot on different days. They all go through Skip Chasen, who not only directs them, but he's an amazing editor. I mean, the guy is one of the top trailer editors that has ever existed. And he is like a savant when it comes to taking something and just elevating it. I mean, we're so lucky to have his, and the good thing is our editors, our three editors, they have such respect for him, and they want nothing more than to make him happy every time they see a cut. And when he shoots back a little note that says, he's one of these 2-word emailers, and he'll write, he's this sweet guy, and he'll write back a little email that says like "cool beans," with an exclamation point, and like they'll frame that. It's like the coolest thing ever when Skip likes your work. And so they're not cutting for me, they're not cutting for the audience. They're cutting because they want a pat on the head from Skip. And occasionally Skip will take something and he'll change 4 edits, and it'll take it from a B to an A, just in those 4 edits. And so we're really lucky to have that extra layer of creativity involved.
All right, I got to ask you another tough question that, or criticism that we hear a ton of. Yeah. Intergender wrestling, and where it's going, because look, Lucha Underground is got a women's division that I feel is stronger in a lot of ways because they're doing intergender wrestling than a lot of what WWE is doing right now, because they're trying to put each other over within their division, and it doesn't look as good as when Taya, say, is wrestling Cage, and all of a sudden it's like, fuck, she can go with Cage. Women's division's nothing, whatever. She's just great, and it takes the whole women out of the whole thing. But I'm curious where you stand on those criticisms, because boy, they're out there and they are strong.
Yeah, that's fine. It's a controversial thing. It existed in Lucha Libre long before MGM and Robert Rodriguez got involved with Lucha Underground. So it's not like we're the ones that have trailblazed intergender wrestling. It's been around in Mexico for a long time, and part of what we wanted to do is stay true to Lucha Libre tradition. The Exotico. We didn't create Pimpy. Pimpy's been making a living, and Cassandro and all these other people have been making a living being an Exotico before. Is that controversial on American television? Yeah, kind of, if you think about it. There were some people that thought that was insensitive to have Pimpy, out there prancing around and kissing and, putting his butt in people's faces. But we didn't invent that. He's been doing that for 25 years in Mexico. So part of it is we're staying true to Lucha Libre roots. Secondly, first season we didn't have enough females on the roster.
There's still not that many either.
I know, we couldn't do Ivelisse against Sexy Star, every other week. We couldn't do that. And I actually think that some of our women, just the style they are, look better when they're going against men. They look more powerful. They look stronger. And it's also a credit to the guys. They're incredibly. Nobody gets all macho and crazy about it when they have to put Taya over or make her look good. Anyone who does that doesn't last long with us. It's sort of a team effort, and when you're out there and we want our females to look just as strong and as badass as our men, and it sort of also kind of fits into our version of kayfabe, which is not the standard version of kayfabe, and it's a reminder of that.
No, it's I don't. We got to come up with a new name for it. Like we have Case Fabe on this show, where it's whenever you cross one of Casey's lines in the wrestling world, it's Case Fabe. But yeah, Lucha Underground kind of needs its own Rodriguez, Big Kahuna Burger form of kayfabe.
We need
Red Alley
Fabe. It's like Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter. Everybody fights everybody. No one bitches about it. You got people's heads off in those games. What the fuck?
Has there been kind of a learning curve with how you're presenting your female luchadors?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's a learning curve with everything on the show. I mean, there's never been anything that I think we've just done perfectly from the jump. I think, do we see all the comments and read the criticisms, and, some stuff works and some stuff doesn't. And there's some stuff coming up in the season that some people will be pissed about and some people won't be pissed about and think it's awesome. And you just ride it out, and you just try to say, you hope that, people will hold Lucha up against its own standard and not necessarily everybody else's. And look, it's not going to be for everybody. Not everybody has to love Lucha Underground. I don't get mad if somebody says I don't watch it and I don't like it. That's cool. There's a lot of shows I don't like and watch.
I remember season 1 when you're doing the Son of Havoc and Helico and Evil stuff, that it was sort of going along that traditional macho women can't fight, or even sexualizing Evil in the ring, even briefly.
Yeah. We did a quick 180 on that one.
Yeah.
After that aired, and we were taping the next episode after the intermission. And it was literally, we pulled everybody into my office upstairs and said, hey, we had very angry people out there. We need to change.
I love that, though. You were actually able to change it day of, because I feel like a lot of times
20 minutes before, and it became the scene where Matt, we switched it from what it was originally going to be to Matt then taking the mic and saying, "You've been holding me back. You're dumped." Boom, boom. He gets over, and as soon as that happened, we all went, that was right.
Well, I think figuring that out got the ball over. I really do. I think that working it out process, people were feeling that there was some real natural tension and some things that weren't right there. And I think it actually got the whole gimmick over even better.
Yeah, there were some upset people in the audience that day. And I got chewed out by a journalist as they were walking out for the intermission. I was just kind of like doing my normal, walk around rounds. I was headed back to, the stairs or whatever. And all of a sudden I got an earful, and someone started kicking my ass right there in the aisle. And I went, okay, well, maybe he has a point. We should probably go talk about this. So,
Well, if Casey is mad about anything throughout this season, just understand it's because you didn't put the strap on Pentagon at the end of season 2. He's still bitter and angry about it. He's going to be bitter and angry about it for a long, long, long time.
It's my cross to bear. I'm sorry.
Still mad about that? Well, I just think of it this way. We like the long con, we're the long play. Nobody gets an easy ride right to the strap. You got to earn it.
And Casey is always ready to fall for the long con. All right, here's my personal criticism of Lucha Underground, Eric.
Cool.
It's merchandising.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like Lucha Underground has a disadvantage in coming from the TV side, because you're not Vince McMahon trying to line his pockets with just cash out of nowhere, because I feel like there should be some more masks for sale, some more T-shirts, some hats, some more character T-shirts. Like when that Pentagon shirt finally hit, brother, come on, you can't tell me there wasn't some bonuses involved that day, because I know those shirts sold.
Sold out in the first day. Absolutely. You're right. That's not handled by the MGM side of it. That's handled by the LLC side of it. They have a team that, they're trying to, we're all sort of adjusting to the demands of having a wrestling product on the air, and there's some learning curves, and there's some things that are done wrong and things that are done right. But that I do not disagree with you even a little bit. But that's not under the MGM Mark Burnett Productions side of things. That's a different team of people, and we're quick to suggest things that we think will sell, because there's a different taste, I think, for the wrestling fan. They like more individual shirts and not, the typical sports shirt, with the Lakers on the front. They would rather have the Marty the Moth, or it's like they don't play for the team, they play for the individual. So I think that there's a little bit of a disconnect that.
Yeah, and it's an individual sport. Like, look, UFC is dealing with that problem now too. That Reebok stuff doesn't sell because now it's a team uniform, but it's an individual sport, and a team uniform, as for sales wise, doesn't make sense. Like, I want the crazy weird logo and Dan Hindo's American flag that's all tattered, whatever. It's like, I don't want the UFC Reebok logo and this thing that looks like everybody else's thing. That's not what you want.
But but those things always complicate everything. I know from Bully Beatdown once, Mayhem thrashed a trailer because I wouldn't let him wear his Tap Out Mayhem robot shirt, and he got really mad at me. But it wasn't my fault. I was just being told by lawyers that he couldn't be doing that. It complicates things when you do that, and when you're I agree. I think Reebok is about as bad a fit for the UFC as you could ever create. I mean, Reebok to the UFC is sort of like, bagel bites to Lucha Underground, but hey, you gotta make it work. No, I shouldn't say that. The bagel bite thing was totally funny. Those guys came in and gave us a ton of free stuff, and that was our tip of the it was almost like a parody of product integration for us.
That was legit one of the greatest things I've ever seen.
It was so funny.
So much.
I mean, sometimes we just do shit just to crack ourselves up, and they're like, fuck the audience. They'll hate us for it, but it's funny. And I think people got the joke on that one. So
I have seen nothing but positive comments on that.
People have bagel bites. It's 100%.
There's a lot of really funny people that work on Lucha Underground, and they come up with really funny stuff. And a lot of times it's like, when you have a show that's so earnest and serious and dramatic and, dark forces at play and blah, 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 every once in a while, you just got to be funny. You just got to have something that cracks everybody up and that keeps the audience laughing, because it's supposed to be fun. That's the whole point of this, right?
Yeah. Well, absolutely. Well, I know you got to get out of here soon, Eric, too, to get to your online, but I got to ask you, what do you want to put over for this season? What can we look forward to? I mean, you got some new guys coming in like Sammy and AR Fox and Paul London now, who I know has been doing stuff behind the scenes, but he's going to be in front of the camera. Like, what do you want to put over for this season? What's the big stuff that we can actually talk about?
You kind of, look, I'm excited for some of the new talent that shows up in season 3. You're going to start seeing promos coming up real quick that are going to make you laugh, that are going to be, weird and hilarious and out there. And, Paul and his little faction are going to, I don't even need to put them over because they're going to get over. I don't need to say a word about it. Same thing with Sammy and AR. I don't need to put them over at all because they're coming over whether you like it or not. People are gonna love them. I mean, they're crazy and they're out there and they're funny. And boy, did they put on some good matches. And there's some other people coming in and I think 3 is it's got some weird stuff, vignette stuff coming and some strange stuff. And there's some of the trademark Lucha Underground violence and gore. Just enjoy it for what it is. It's fun. We're not trying to be anybody other than us, and just want the audience to laugh along and have a good time watching it. When someone have fun watching it, that's good enough for me.
I can't wait to see personally how Cobra Moon gets on that throne and gets some little minions or whatever she had bowing down to her. That's going to be, because this is stuff that we don't know. Like I've been in the temple, we've seen matches. I don't know what the hell you and Skip shot. So like we saw that trailer that was almost all vignette stuff, and it blew our damn minds. It was like, holy shit, why the fuck does Cobra Moon have a throne? Why is Drago breathing fire? What's going on here? Where's Pentagon? Like, what is going on? Like, literally, we had an hour and a half podcast about a 3-minute video, which is amazing.
Yeah, the thing I'm looking forward to the most is AR Fox, because legit, based on in-ring work alone, no spoilers, he is now my second favorite luchador in Lucha Underground behind Pentagon Jr., and that is not faint praise.
And that is not hyperbole either. Damn. That's all I'll say. It's just damn. I mean, there's been a few spots of his where I legitimately was terrified. and like, you just don't need to do that, dude. We love you. We love you. We don't want anything
We love
bad
you. We
to
want you
happen.
back tomorrow.
We want you to be able to work for us for a long time. You've got the job, bro. You've got the job. But man, that dude is just cool, isn't he? He's just he's
and as unfortunate as it is that you guys didn't get him in season 1 or whatever.
He was supposed to be part of the crew originally,
right? I'd heard that, and I was just like,
he was going to be the crew originally was people got sensitive that we had this sort of like little faction sort of gang that was African American, and then they were going against the Mexicans, and it was like, oh God, everybody had already was like, oh, this is like, let's not make it that. And I'm like,
whatever, come on, keeping it real.
Drive down the street. They were actually going to be called the Crenshaw Crew. Was going to be their original name, and they X'd that as well. So then it just became the Crew. But I thought Crenshaw Crew was a way cooler name for them.
That would have been dope.
And I was like, Crenshaw runs all the way from downtown LA all the way down to like Redondo Beach, and there's 87 different neighborhoods on Crenshaw Boulevards. There's like Asian neighborhoods and Hispanic neighborhoods and black neighborhoods and white neighborhoods. Crenshaw is a long street in LA. Anyone who knows that Crenshaw, but everybody was being real careful at first because they knew where we were going with this stuff, and they knew it was going to be out there and different, and so I think everybody's relaxed, and we would probably be able to get that name through now if we did it. But
in this day and age,
half the crew's dead now, so they're all dead now. So what do we do?
Look, we normally talk MMA a lot on this show too. Anything before you go that you want to talk about MMA wise? I know Cyborg had her big weight cut that she made today. By the way, she actually hit 140 pounds.
She looks like shit, dude.
It was scary. It's scary. She had to get in like this spacesuit bag. She has like a sauna bag thing in her hotel room where she can shed like 17 pounds the morning of or something ridiculous. And she just
looks like she was in a fucking iron lung.
Oh, I want to see what she looks like tomorrow.
It's attempted suicide every time she cuts weight. It's ridiculous.
I was like people do that. It's crazy. I was a high school wrestler back in the 80s, and just doing that, it's so horrible and so terrible. But what can you do? You can't. It's part of the sport. You just got to deal with it. That fight with Ronda will be made eventually. There's too much money on the table. Ronda ain't retiring. They all say that. Floyd's not retiring either. It's just gamesmanship. Eventually the money will catch up.
Well, and that right now is actually an interesting story too, because Conor McGregor and Eddie Alvarez both said that they wanted to fight each other at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, they pulled that away then, right? It's not happening.
Right, but now Dana is saying no, it's Khabib, and he still wants to push Jose Conor fight to happen. But Eddie Alvarez is the one that's holding out, and he's saying no, Conor wants me, I want Conor. He's not signing the agreement with Khabib Nurmagomedov, who has 2 signed agreements, one for 205 at Madison Square Garden and now one for 206. And Eddie is not countersigning him. He does not want to sign it. He wants the Conor fight. So I have no idea how that's going to play out.
Maybe I'm blinded by my Eddie Alvarez fandom, thanks to Bully Beatdown, but Eddie beats Conor.
Oh, I think so too.
Easily.
But I want to see Eddie get that fight because I don't know if he beats Khabib.
Yeah, different style. Yeah, but Conor's the moneymaker right now, so he can't lose 2 out of 3, and he's done. So you got to put that off as long. You look at it from the promoter side. It's like he's got to put that off as long as possible because that's a real dangerous. That's bad for the organization. If the guy who's been selling all your tickets for the last 2 years, loses 2 out of 3 matches. You got to protect him. That's the business side of it, but the fan side of it wants that fight, and I think Eddie wins it.
Yeah, I honestly, it's all good for me. I like Khabib too. I like Conor. I like Jose. Like, you throw any of these guys in any combination, I'm watching it. I'm buying it and spending the money. What I don't want to spend money on is another Canelo Alvarez fight against nobody. Like, what the fuck was that?
Hey, Liam Smith is okay. I disagree with you on this one. Okay, now we got heat, you and me. All right. Well,
oh wow, here we go.
because okay, well, maybe it's because Paul Smith, Liam's brother, is an old friend of mine. He was on Contender, and he comes to LA. He stays in my house, and so I like the Smith family, and Liam's a stud. I'd rather a guy who knew he was outmatched, who went out on his fucking shield, man. He went out there swinging.
He did.
I would watch that fight 10 times before I'd want to watch another Floyd Mayweather fight. Floyd Mayweather against Andre Berto. Fucking kill me now. And I was in the audience for that one. I'll take the guy who's outmatched, who just fucking all nuts and guts, and man, just goes for it. Like that to me, even though I knew after round 2 Liam didn't have a chance, there's something in that story of that fight that was very compelling, and I would watch Liam Smith fight again.
Right, but the marketing leading up to it too, and the buy rates, I mean, it was like a 300,000 or something. It was pretty dismal. But that's because you got a guy like Canelo who said and called out Triple G into the ring, calls the guy out, and says, "You're my next fight."
The English champion, which never does well in the U.S. Yeah.
Well, and I get, but I mean, he calls the guy out, and then days later he relinquishes the belt to the guy and says, "No, I'm not going to fight you. Maybe we'll do it in 2017 or 2018." Like, I think that's
they're under the misguided impression that America cares about that much as they cared about Pacquiao Mayweather, and they don't. But I think what's going on in the UFC and boxing and wrestling, everyone should kind of look at this. It's like people do want the super fights. People want to see, regardless of what the capabilities necessarily are, they want to see their big stars and their favorite people go at it. And sometimes the guy's going to lose. Connor's not going to beat everyone at 170, but at the same time, if Sexy Star meets Brian Cage or Mil Muertes in the dark alley, she's not going to win that either. But in Lucha Underground, she might win. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And people want that kind of super match element to all of these things, and there's money in it. It's like, to me, honestly, if Conor were to fight Eddie Alvarez and lose, I'm still going to watch the next Conor fight after that. Yeah. I don't care anymore. He transcended to that next level of, I just want to see this guy fight. Chael Sonnen going into Bellator now.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I like, Chael's on the new season of Celebrity Apprentice. So I needed a bad guy, I needed a villain. So
I will officially watch every episode that he's on now.
And he does not disappoint. I mean, he is Chael Sonnen from day one to the day he finishes the show. He is Chael Sonnen, and it's hilarious. You'll love it.
Return of the bad guy. Well, let's end it here then. Why don't you talk a little bit about your Celebrity Apprentice? Send us out with some of this, because this is your next big thing coming up, and it's Trumpless. It's Trumpless.
Who's the boss? The Arnold Schwarzenegger version of Celebrity Apprentice, and he's hilarious and he's funny. And for a guy in our age group, to be able to sit there and be in a room and be like, oh my God, I'm sitting here with Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's the coolest thing ever. He's everything I hoped he would be. I go into these interactions with these super powerful people very jaded and very with low expectations, and you always set the bar very low when you're dealing with these kind of people, because you just always end up hating them afterwards. I loved Arnold. He was amazing. He was funny. He was smart. He was great on television. He was just a cool guy. Really, really exceeded what I had even hoped that he would be. I wish he was running for governor so I could vote for him again. But he's good on the show. He really sort of takes it seriously, and he's smart. People don't understand. He was a multimillionaire before he ever made Conan the Barbarian, because he was really smart about real estate and business, and he had 10 different businesses that he started, and he has a lot of interesting things to say. So it starts January 2nd on NBC, and it's awesome. Watch Lucha Underground. And then TiVo Survivor on CBS. I know that's what this was all about originally.
Well, and you get Roach back now too, right? Isn't Big Brother done?
There's a Big Brother that's shooting now, actually.
Oh, that's right. They're doing that over the top thing, trying to make me buy CBS app.
Yeah. Hey, look, I think that's great. I love I love when people try things that are outside of the normal. I mean, whether they fall on their ass or not, I don't know. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, but it's a bold thing. It's kind of like the WWE app, it's like, that's a bold thing to try. And I love to watch it play out. The big money's at risk. Same thing here with CBS, and it's good if Roach is working, and we'll get him when we need him. I guess I don't want to plug Chris Roach. CBS.
Well, yeah, who you don't want to plug is DJ, because in our MMMshow Lucha Underground Awards this year, we had a Best Backstage Jefe Award between you and DJ and Chris Roach, and we threw Stolman in there, who got 0 votes. Sorry, but DJ beat you.
He should.
You were a close second, but DJ won, just so you know. So at some point in time, whenever we make our T-shirts, we're going to give DJ a shirt, and we're not going to give you one.
He absolutely should win that. He does all of the hard work on the show. I really just show up and try and smooth out people's hurt feelings. But DJ does all the hard work. I get the fun stuff.
Byron, you got anything else you want to add before we lose Eric and then discuss his show behind his back after we lose him?
Ooh.
Yeah. At the risk of ruining the quality of the show, I have one more question. I wanted to ask you about how you were surprised about the audience. You've done other combat sports shows, and the Lucha Underground crowd is very specific. But I have this question first, which is much more important. In a game of Marry, Fuck, Kill, where would Roach, DJ, and Stolman place?
Wow. I think I have an answer.
Yeah.
I'd kill Stolman.
Somebody's got to ring that bell, man.
Yeah, I can find somebody else.
Just put him post.
I'd fuck DJ, and I'd marry Chris Roach because Chris is married. He already knows, and he has a tender side to him. Chris Roach does, and I think that has all that you need for a long-lasting and loving relationship. So I'd marry Roach. I'd fuck DJ. And believe me, I'd fuck DJ plenty. Every time I call DJ, I feel like I'm fucking him over in some way, shape, or form. And then I'd have to kill Stolman. Sorry, Stolman, but somebody has to be killed.
All right, good.
I love it.
That's very sincere, actually. That's true. Exactly how I'm not bullshitting. That's how it would play.
Good measurement of where you are with people. And thanks for this awesome shirt, by the way, that these other two idiots don't have. I'm glad I was at the taping of the 100th episode of
I
Lucha
was
Underground.
sick. I was so sick. I didn't want to make the wrestlers sick.
I
High
had
fiving
something.
them and shit.
You guys blew it. I'm gonna dig some up for you guys. All right, give me some
awesome.
time. All their shit's all somewhere, but I'll reach out to you. I'll figure out a way to get you one.
Well, since Byron begging off a shirt from you is how we kind of got you on the show in the first place, I can't argue with that.
That's payment for all the advertising for the show.
How'd I do? You think the internet world is going to hate anything I said today? It's not going to be too controversial.
Yes. No, they're going to hate it.
Okay. Shit. All right. I'm apologizing now.
I think. Look, they know if they come to our show, it's deep content. It's a ton of stuff they don't want to hear anyway. Right. They have to suffer through it if they want to get to the good stuff. That's just our product. That's just how we do.
Cubs fan, you better put us on the fucking front page of the Lucha blog for this, buddy.
Yeah. Everybody, go back to watching your piss porn now. Okay.
Exactly.
Well, we just lost the German viewers.
Hey, we're on TV in Germany. Give them a break. We love us. They love us there.
Well, yeah. So how do that is? I gotta ask this one question. How do we make this bigger, man? How do we get Lucha Underground bigger? Is it making El Rey Network bigger? Can you guys get on Hulu or Netflix, or what do we do? Tell us how to help out and how to make this thing blow up, because I want it to stay around for a long time.
The fans have done everything. I think the fans continue to do everything that they're supposed to do. They're supposed to be, pushing and tweeting and getting people enthused about it. It's really, these are massive companies that are in play here. I mean, MGM Television is a massive company, as is the El Rey Network, has got a lot of big partners. And then when you start talking about selling the rights to certain territories, they have to negotiate the English-speaking version and then the Spanish-speaking version and then the streaming video on demand, who gets the rights to that. And there's just no easy way to make a simple deal, it appears. I mean, this is not something that I get involved with. I mean, I'm like you guys. I'm constantly asking, the people that I report to, hey, when is the Netflix deal going to be finished? When is this deal going to? What about foreign? I know we're on in Asia now, and there's just a lot of relationship issues with a lot of the players that are attached. There's a lot of big companies that have a small finger in this pot, and they're getting anybody to sort of be all on the same page takes a certain amount of finesse and a certain amount of sort of political maneuvering. And that's just a really cop-out answer, I know, but that's the truth.
Look, we're all hoping for the same things. I really do think like some kind of video on demand thing, aside from iTunes, is going to be what really kind of puts it over the top, because I have a feeling that guys like me will sit down and binge it finally. And when you can watch 2 or 3 episodes of this show in a row and get the broader scope of it, people are going to be like, oh shit, why have I not been watching this? Like, Breaking Bad was the same way. I didn't watch season 1 or 2 of Breaking Bad when it aired, but man, when that shit came on Netflix after that, I watched every episode live from that point on.
Walking Dead, same thing. It's like it will only actually feed the El Rey audience to put it out on a streaming service. And I think everybody understands the modeling that has happened with that and wants to do it. It's just it's a hard sell, because it's not a show that you can say, oh, it's like this. It's not like anything. And so every deal, it's so much easier to come in with a product that's like something else and that fits a mold for what they've done in the past. And that, a buyer can sit there and say, oh, I get it. The show is like this. This is a wrestling show, but it's not. And is it in Spanish? Is it in English? It's kind of both. And when you're talking about millions of dollars, people need to know what you're talking about. They need to be able to understand what your show is. So there's a lot of education that has to come on, and that has to be, and a lot of good selling that goes on around the show. But we're working on it. There are people who are actively working on it every day, and hopefully we'll have some more announcements before the end of the year.
I hope that your show doesn't get canceled anytime soon, because I really don't want to do a podcast about crocheting with Casey and Byron.
What's up with that commercial for Sling?
They shot that so long ago. I couldn't, but I'd forgotten about it. I remember being over there when they were shooting it, and I was looking in. I'm like, why does he have an ironing board? Like what?
No, he breathes fire. That's how he heats it.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah. Hey, look, Sling has been good for us. We like Sling. Sling. Those guys have been out. They've sponsored some stuff. Go out and get Sling if you want.
I watch on Sling.
Cord cutter. You watch it on Sling. You happy with Sling? You happy with the Sling product?
Yeah, Sling is great. I watch because that way I get to see it on the East Coast and I can live tweet it. I'm sometimes a couple seconds behind, which stinks because I won't get retweeted or stuff like that because I'll be a little behind. But at the same time, I wouldn't have a way to watch it at the East Coast time, and I can't wait the extra 3 hours, man. I'm over that shit.
Yeah, well, then get Sling.
Yeah, exactly.
They were one of our first people who got on board with us. So I'm grateful and want everybody who is a cord cutter to get the Sling service. Do it.
Did it. All right. Eric, you got to get out of here, man. You got an online to get to. And if we fuck up you making the next episode that we get to see, we're going to be giant idiots and assholes.
Nah, the stuff gets done with or without me. Trust me.
I believe it. All right, thank you so much for being on the show, dude. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Keep watching Lucha Underground Wednesday. Another one coming.
This has been an amazing show. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Come back next week where we will have a whole bunch of stuff that's probably not nearly as exciting, but now that you're addicted to us, we're kind of like the crack cocaine of your podcast life. So for that guy, Byron Fever over there, that guy, Casey Nielsen, and for me, myself, and I, until next time, stay calm and stay in the mix.